Today, we're diving into a really powerful story from the Quran, from a chapter called Abasa. And let me tell you, it's a profound lesson on humility, what true value really is, and a shift in perspective that can honestly change everything. So, to get us started, I want you to really think about this question. What's more valuable? Is it getting the attention of the influential, the powerful people, or is it giving your all to someone who is sincere, even if they have no status? That very question is right at the heart of what we're exploring today.
All right, let's jump right into our first section, a divine correction. Our story kicks off with a single event that teaches this incredible lesson in what our priorities should be and what humility looks like. It really sets the stage for what truly matters.
So, I want you to picture the scene. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is deep in conversation with the leaders of his community, the elites of Quraysh. The hope here is huge. If they accept the message, it could change society for the better. The stakes feel incredibly high. But then there's an interruption. A man named Abdullah ibn Maktum, who happened to be blind, comes up to him. Now, he isn't a leader, he's not influential, but what he is earnest. He is sincere, and he's just desperate for guidance. And in that moment, totally focused on what seemed like this huge opportunity with the leaders, the prophet shows just a brief, very human sign of being displeased by the interruption. It was a subtle thing, but it was enough to trigger an immediate and timeless divine lesson. So what happened? In response to this moment, verses were revealed that gently corrected this perspective, and the lesson was crystal clear. Real success isn't about winning over the powerful. A sincere heart, no matter who it belongs to, is what's truly valuable. This moment established a core principle. In the eyes of God, everyone has an equal right to hear the message. So the whole thing boils down to this one powerful truth that echoes through the entire chapter. Sincerity always matters more than influence. Period. And that brings us to our second section, pride and perspective. The chapter kind of zooms out from this specific story to a much broader theme, the contrast between the purity of the divine message and, well, our own human arrogance. See, the text makes it really clear that the Quran's value doesn't depend on who accepts it. It's described as this honored revelation, preserved and delivered by noble angels. Its truth and its dignity stand completely on their own, whether a powerful leader accepts it or a humble seeker embraces it. Then the chapter holds up a mirror to us, and it highlights this really stark contrast. Think about it. We were created from such a humble origin, a mere drop, and we're guided through every single stage of our lives. And yet, what's our attitude? So often, it's one of pride, denial, and just plain ingratitude. So what's the solution here? It's a call for self-awareness. The text basically tells us that remembering where we came from, that humble, fragile beginning, is the best cure for pride. The perspective then shifts again. Instead of looking inward at ourselves, it asks us to look outward at the world all around us. It wants us to find the proof of divine planning in the blessings we so often just take for granted. The text points to this perfect, deliberate cycle of how we get our food. First, rain is sent down in just the right amount. Then the earth cracks open so life can emerge. And from that, we get all the grains and fruits that sustain us. This isn't presented as some random accident, but as a carefully, meticulously planned system of care. And that brings this grand, cosmic process right down to our dinner table. The takeaway is simple but so profound. Every single plate of food in front of you is a quiet, constant proof of this divine provision and care. Okay, now the tone of the chapter shifts, and it shifts dramatically. We go from reflecting on these gentle signs in our daily lives, and we're transported to the ultimate climax of our existence, the day of reckoning. It starts with this description of a deafening blast, a sound that signals the end of the world as we know it, and the beginning of a new permanent reality where every single soul will stand to be judged. And on that day, all the worldly connections we think are so important, status, influence, even our own families, they just dissolve. The text paints this intense picture of people fleeing from their own brothers, mothers, fathers, even their children. And why? Because each person will be completely and utterly preoccupied with their own outcome. And this all hammers home one central idea: absolute individual accountability. It's the understanding that, in the end, we stand alone, responsible for our own choices and actions. No one can answer for us. And of course, this accountability leads to the final, powerful scene of the chapter. It shows us two very distinct paths and two very different destinies, which are the direct result of the lives people chose to live. And here, the contrast couldn't be more vivid. On one side, you have faces that are bright, laughing, full of joy. These were the believers, the ones who lived with humility. And on the other side, faces covered in darkness and dust. These were the rejectors, the ones who lived with arrogance. The message is inescapable. The end result isn't random. It is a direct consequence of the path we walk. Our choices, our attitudes, our beliefs, they are what literally forge our destiny. So, to bring it all home, what are the big takeaways from this chapter? First, that real worth is found in sincerity, not social status. Second, that humility comes from knowing where you came from and being grateful for what you have. Third, that the world is just full of signs if we're willing to look. And finally, that we are all, each one of us, individually accountable for our lives. And that leaves us with one last, vital question to really reflect on. It's a question posed not just by this ancient text, but by the reality of our own lives. If every single choice we make is like a brick building the structure of our ultimate destiny, what kind of future are we building for ourselves right now?